Hello, Fashion Radio. This is Cindy Galley, and I'm coming to you live today from Highland Park. With us today, we have special guest Janae Klatt.
Hi.
How are you, Janae?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
No, we're so glad to have you with us. And so, if I can say one of many things about Janae, she is a dreamer. She dreams big and she's relentless about chasing her dreams. In fact, recently I attended a service where she was speaking on not letting go of your dreams. And she talked about Joseph and how, the different phases that he went through, the painful things that he must have experienced. And yet through it all, he still ended up holding on to the very thing that he saw in the very beginning until it actually manifested in his actual life and unfolded. And so, Janae, would you like to share with us today? I know you are a dreamer.
Yeah.
We've had you featured in our magazine before.
Yes.
You've talked about just facing your fears. What are some of the fears in your life that you've had to face in the past to be able to put your message and your heart to action?
That's a really good question. I think one of the biggest fears I think anybody can face is the fear of failure, because there's something of accomplishment in all of our hearts that when we have a dream that we want to go after it and we want to be successful and we want to do it to the best of our abilities. And failure kind of creeps in there, and we start to worry about, well, what if it doesn't look the way we thought it was going to look? Or what if we completely do it wrong? Or we just don't make it, you know? And so I think failure is one of those things that we have to battle all the time. The fear of failure. Because really, we've heard so many people say that, honestly, the failure is not trying. Failure is really not going after the things that have been placed in your heart. That's true failure.
That's good, right.
Because really, when we are true to who God has designed us to be and we go after the dreams that God has placed in our life, there is no failure.
Right.
Because we're doing what has been set before us. So I think that's a big fear.
Right.
But I think it's a fear that we can dissipate quickly.
Right. What would you say to somebody who is listening and they might say, ouch, I can honestly say I've never gone after anything I've seen in my heart because I have feared just the whole idea of failing altogether. So I've taken the safe route.
I think, first of all, to not beat yourself up about that, because there's always tomorrow.
Right, good.
And tomorrow you can try.
Right.
And tomorrow is a fresh new start. And so set it in your heart and your mind when you go to sleep that tomorrow when you wake up, you're going to attempt. You're going to try. You're going to take a step towards your dream. And I think if someday we look back and say, oh, I never tried and I had so many opportunities to try, then we can be discouraged. But we have this moment, we have tomorrow, we have every opportunity to say, no, I'm going to try one step towards my dream and go after it. And even if it's little,
right,
that's okay.
That's good. So what are some of the practicals that you could say that someone should do? I've been in a community and a culture that dreaming is what we do. It's like we see the dream, we write the vision, we go after the vision until we've achieved that.
Right.
But, I can say that there probably are a lot of people that have not been in that camp, maybe have never been around people or leaders that encourage them to do that.
Right.
We attend seminars, Franklin Covey, and just all of these, what matters most and first things first. And what would you say would just be some practical steps that somebody who's never, ever even thought about what dreams do I have? What would you encourage them to do to start recognizing those dreams?
It's a really good question. I think the first thing is to recognize that we're all dreamers and that we were created by a God who is the biggest dreamer, and therefore we have a dream placed in our heart. And a dream is simply an expectation and a hope of something that is unseen.
That's good.
When you think about a dream in your life, it can simply be the dream to graduate college.
Right.
That's a huge dream.
That's huge.
It's not in front of you yet, but it's something that you have a desire for. It is an expectation and a hope. So begin to identify the hopes that you have.
Oh, I like that.
Begin to identify the excitement that you get when you look towards the future in certain areas. Like, I'm excited about someday having this career, or someday getting married, or someday having kids, or
Traveling.
someday traveling and living in this country, or going after this type of, something even big, like I want to be in the Olympics. Like, you have these hopes that we wake up with every morning, and
very timely example.
Olympics, right. You've got 4 years to go after it,
USA.
Yes, totally. And so I think if you can identify the hopes that you have and begin to even simply write them down, like just write down a hope that you have, and begin to think about that. And then at that point, when you've identified, even to whatever level that hope is, whether you think it's too big or you think it's even too small, don't disqualify your hopes. Don't disqualify your dreams. Get them in your heart, secure them, and write them down, and then begin to take practical steps in simple ways. So let's say you have a desire someday to have this career. Well, first of all, just look up some research on that career.
Right.
Just simply identify what it takes to have that kind of job, and begin to write those things down. And then take the next step of being, okay, do I need an education in that? Well, then let's move in that direction.
Right.
And I think we think of dreams as these huge, far off adventures, when really they are one step in front of the other,
That's good.
going after the day-to-day. And eventually we'll look back and see we're living the dream.
The dream.
Really.
I like that. That's good. How would you encourage somebody? I've heard that saying, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. What would you say to somebody to encourage somebody who they've tried, and they just feel like, oh, I just really can't get back up, or I don't know that I have the umph in me, the fight in me, and fighting right now, the whole concept of fighting and having courage and being brave, it's a big deal right now. There's a big push right now. There's big rallies, the fight song. And really, if you think about it, because I can remember a day back in the 70s when we were singing I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor, And boy, that song has just resonated with so many women. Like, no, I will survive. But what would you say to somebody who, they've tried, and then they keep falling? Okay, so now there's discouragement. They don't really want to get back up to walk out the dream they've seen in their heart.
If we wake up every day and know that we are victorious in Christ, then even when we stumble and fail and fall and try again and try again and try again, we're not a failure. We haven't lost.
Right.
And I think securing that in your heart, that truly a dream is something that we hold on to, but it isn't our identity. And that our identity is found in something so much greater. And someone so much greater than us, that we can rest in that and continue to try. I really do think, if we think of like even some of the greatest people that we would say would be successes, like Walt Disney and Michael Jordan and all of these people, that tried and tried and tried, and they failed, quote unquote failed, numerous times, and yet they kept trying, and now we see the legacy that they have left because they didn't give up, and they
on the dream that was always in there,
and they didn't lose sight of that. And so yes, discouragement is going to come. Yes, waking up and feeling like I can't do this, I'm so tired, I can't keep fighting for this dream. But really, when we stand in who we are, not in what we will accomplish, I think the focus begins to change, and our discouragement can really be broken, because we know that we have a hope, and we're going to keep standing for it and keep fighting for it, just like those songs. I think there's in human nature that we are fighters, man. That's what we've been made to do, is to believe in something greater and to really fight for something bigger than who we are. And so I think it's just the discouragement is going to come. So when it does, just take a breath and try again.
Yeah, no, that's good. Someone is encouraged by what you've shared. Now, even just looking now at the story of Joseph, that's a character in the book of Genesis that we read. And, Joseph found himself discouraging, heartbreaking situation after heartbreaking situation, and until he's finally in this pit. And, I so many times when I'm reading that, I think of all of the characters that I have read or stories, I feel like I identify most with him in so many of the different seasons of my life. I'm like, yes, I am in a pit. Yes, I am in prison.
Right.
But what would you say, just in terms of practical, again, because practical application is so important, what would you say to somebody who, they're at that point where they have the hope, and yet the waiting.
Right.
What do you do in that waiting period? Because you still have the hope, you still have not let go of the dream, yet you find yourself in this situation that you think, I don't know if I will ever, come out of this, even though I see the dream and I don't want to give up on it. What do you do while you're waiting for that
I think
moment of release?
Right.
Or,
I think the waiting is probably the hardest time for a dreamer because, which is all of us, a dreamer is all of us, which is because we can't do anything. If we think about Joseph, he was actually in prison, unjustly put there, but he could not get out in his own strength. He could not be released. There was nothing that he could do. And so he was literally waiting. And that's so discouraging because we are people of action and we want to, let's just make it happen. Just by sheer gumption, I'm going to fly, we're going to build an airplane and we're going to get there. And sometimes we have to just wait. And I think the practical thing that we have to apply to our life is the battle. That's when it becomes a battle of the mind. And our hearts and our souls have to become so steel trapped against lies.
That's good.
We begin to, in the waiting, in the times of feeling like we're in prison, we begin to question the entirety of our life. We begin to question the dream. Why am I here? Why is this even happening to me?
Is it going to happen?
Is it going to happen? Of course I'm in prison. I'm a failure. We start to spiral into all of these lies, and we have to guard our mind against that.
Yes.
Because that is when it becomes a battle of the mind. I mean, actually talking about the Olympics, when you think about an athlete, they say that the battle isn't necessarily against their body. Yes, they're exhausted, but really what happens is their mental game has to kick in.
Wow.
And they have to say, I am going to complete this task. I am going to run this race. I am going to dive this dive because I know that I can, and I've practiced it, and I'm ready, and I'm going to guard my mind against the lies that say I can't. And I think when we're waiting, that's when we have to put all of our focus and attention into guarding our mind against the lies and the discouragement and the feeling of giving up.
Yeah, that's so good. I can think of several times, and every time for me personally, I always find myself, opening up the Word and saying, okay, what does God's Word say about this or about me?
Yeah.
And so then I begin to say, no, your Word tells me you will perfect that which concerns me.
Right.
You who have began a good work, and you will be faithful to complete it.
Yes.
It's your work. You put these desires in me. You placed these dreams in me. And so I think you're right. It is a battle of the mind. Proverbs says to guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life.
Yeah.
And I believe it's the same with the mind and the soul, the will, the emotions,
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I know that you are an incredible speaker, teacher, preacher.
Thank you.
I have been at events where you have delivered spoken word, so you're super talented.
Thank you.
I remember the word that you wrote for the next conference, which was a conference for young leaders.
Yes.
And that conference ended with 4 different next gen youth, and it was powerful. The words that you're given are so amazing. Where could somebody, an organization or a ministry or a youth group or a church would be highly blessed to have you, speak or share or even deliver, writing a spoken word for their event? Where can somebody find you? How can they get a hold of you?
Well, my phone number. No, I'm just kidding. No, I have a website. It's JanaeKlatt.com.
Okay.
And You can find me on Instagram and on Facebook as well. And so all that information is actually on my website. And so you can go there and...
Janae Klatt.
Janae Klatt, KLATT.
.com.
Yeah, people. So
yeah.
And free.
And, like I said, talented because I know you act as well.
Yes.
You know? And so, in fact, that was one of the things, I think one of the bravest things that I remembered reading about your journey was, you and your family coming out here, moving to LA because you really felt like this is where you were supposed to be in pursuit of the dreams that were in your heart. So you upped and moved your whole family, your husband, the girls, from Flagstaff to California. And so now here you are.
Yes, here we are. Yeah.
And so you act too, so that's a whole other...
Yes, I do. I enjoy acting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Between all the things that you're so gifted with, which are the things that are the most dearest to your heart?
Well, definitely the opportunity to share the word with people and to teach is really one that's super close to my heart because it's truth. And, and I love the truth. So that's awesome. But acting is just so fun for me. It's just such a joy to be able to place another character and bring that character to life and have fun with it. So.
And you do.
Thank you.
Lord, people know that I'm a terrible actress. It's like, I don't know this line and it's not conveying on my face. Because it's uncomfortable, because it's not really me.
It's not, I know, it's fun. I play with my girls, we do like all different kinds of accents together and we try to pretend I get to be all these characters. It's fun when you get to be around little kids because they just get it. That's what little kids do. They just
love it.
Imagine their whole life. So it's fun.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, for encouraging us in dreaming. And so don't forget, if you are wanting someone to come and share, to speak, to motivate your youth or your organization, people that you work with or friends, family, congregation, all of the above, JanaeKlatt.com. And so thank you so much for being with us, Janae.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Fashion.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And listeners, thank you for joining us on Fashion Radio. Remember to check us out on fashionmagazine.com, our YouTube channel. Of course, you know about our iTunes podcast, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Periscope, and more. But until next time, keep on living the dream and don't let go. We'll see you soon.